Hello there, Internet. All Internet people, big and small. How y'all doing? Been a while. Left you waiting. Maybe not. Some of you, I'm sure, are waiting. Some of you, don't know anything about me, and maybe you heard about the spinner that I'm going to be reviewing. But before I get into that, something a little different. I've sort of almost half joked about doing this, but I thought I'd actually really open up with a little beer review. So you guys can spin ahead. I was going to say, meant to say skip ahead, but we'll say spin ahead. So I've got a hoppy quad here. It's a Belgian style quadruple. It's got 4 different hops. I don't know enough about like Belgian styles and triples, like tripels and quadruples, as opposed to like a double or triple IPA. I'm not really sure what the difference is. But anyway, look at this bad boy, 13% alcohol. So it's serious. So I had some of this during the Super Bowl. But I still had some left over, so hopefully it hasn't gotten too flat or too crazy trying to keep it fresh. But let's pour it. Let's just... Yeah, this might not be... You might have lost some of its aroma. We're not going to be able to fit it all in there. But anyway, let's take a little sniff. Now, when I first had this, it had a lot of almost like apple juice kind of smell, which was really strange to me. Yeah, but it is very, very floral. I do smell like a lot of, it reminds me of apple juice with some alcohol in it. Although for 13%, you don't really smell a lot, but it's a pretty clear, light-bodied beer. Flavor was really interesting. Let me see if it's still there. Yeah, it's still there. It's very interesting. It does taste almost like a cider, kind of right up front. And then you get hit with a little bit of the beer hops. You can almost kind of smell that lager kind of smell, like a lager and an apple juice kind of mix. But then when you taste it, it reminds me a lot of like a very bitter cider. But then it hits you with like that alcohol warmth afterwards. So you don't actually taste a lot of alcohol for 13%. A lot of times the alcohol is really in your face, but alcohol has a very warming sensation as it goes down, and you kind of get that hit afterwards. So I wouldn't even call it on the finish. I would call it after the finish. And then there it is, right about there. So it's pretty interesting, but it's nice. It's very complex. It's not something I think I would want to drink a lot, but I think it's one you could get into and you could drink to really kind of like discover and pick up little subtleties in there, because I think it does have a lot going on. And it still tastes good. It looks like it lost a little bit of its head. Fizziness, bubbles, carbonation, whatever you want to call it. It didn't have a lot of that to begin with, though, the first time around. The other thing that's interesting, it doesn't taste as cold as other beers do. And I mean, I know with more alcohol, it has a lower freezing point, but still I would think would taste cold, but it doesn't taste as cold as, and again, maybe that's to do with that alcohol and that warming going on afterwards. But anyway, we'll leave that there. 3 minutes and 20 seconds in, so maybe I'll remember to put a little 3-minute and 20-second disclaimer, and then we can get into the spin review proper. Excuse me. So we've been wanting to do this one for a while, so let's just bring it in. There it is. So if you guys remember at the end of 2017, oh man, this is so good. I've been spinning the XL Quasar lately, so I haven't actually been handling this. But yeah, this is good. This is coming right back to me. It's funny, like you start spinning the spinner, and you're like, man, I really like this. This is the new best thing. And then you go back to, oh yeah, now I remember why you're so good. But you know what? When we get to the XL Quasar, I'm going to record those back to back, almost like stream of consciousness, but I will cut the video to make it 2 separate reviews and probably upload it the day after. Depends if I can get this up. Anyway, so this came out. It is the Tungsten Zentri Evo, as opposed to the Tungsten Zentri Nano. So Nano versus Evo. But let's turn this on here. So this is heavy. Now it's a little extra heavy because they also did a pre-order. Look at that, 216. Let's just for the sake of like, look at the size difference here. Brass, copper buttons. Oh, 182. This is like a whole 30 grams. 35 grams heavier. Now it does have tungsten buttons on it, so they came out with the tungsten buttons around the same time, which are pretty interesting to me. I like the fact that they do add weight without adding a lot to the spinner, but even without it, look, 180. So even without buttons. So if we put the stainless steel buttons that would have come with it. Boom, we're still 10 grams heavier than this guy here. So don't think like, it's tungsten buttons, he's messing around. But the tungsten buttons are interesting. The tungsten buttons as well, maybe a quick mini review, have a lot of grip to them. Like the way they're machined, they're harder to machine. They actually have almost like a matte finish chalkboard kind of feel going on to it. So this is, I think, one of the heaviest spinners I've got going. Now they also did the tungsten buttons. I ordered all three, the Kongs. So let's do a little comparison's sake here, shall we? So we got the stainless steel, 6.8 grams, 25 grams. 14 grams. 30, almost 40 grams, right? So it's crazy. So the tungsten buttons are pretty sweet. It's interesting what that does to a spinner. Where should we put these? Let's put these on. Now with the tungsten buttons, the way Fidget HQ is doing it, they've got these little lips and recesses where this just kind of sits on top, and it's your little spacer. So if you want to use it on something that's press fit, you just use it like this. You can see that little bit of shoulder there. If it's not press fit, you put that on and it raises you up. So this is not press, I mean, it is like a press fit glued style bearing. And again, I stone wash this, but you can see like it was designed on the body. So it's got that chamfer going into the bearing. It's going to be a long review. You guys don't mind since it's been a while. Reviews have been slowing down for me, I know. We'll put the tungsten buttons on there. Now what are we at? 140, that's pretty good. Feels pretty good. We'll leave it like that for now. But anyway, let's get all this crap out of the way. So yeah, so the buttons are pretty sweet. On their newer style buttons, now the first ones I got did not do this, but on their newer style ones, rather than having that little spacer just kind of sit on there and be loose, you can see that that's threaded. So you actually can thread you see the inside is threaded, which is nice. So this I really appreciate. At first I was like, why would you bother putting chamfers on there? And why would you bother doing it this way instead of just doing a washer? But this is a really elegant solution where it doesn't come loose, it feels nice, you don't have any wobbliness going on. Once everything's pinched down tight, it's fine, but they can sometimes be a little finicky to put on. But Fidget HQ, well done on this style. So just so you guys know, Fidget HQ don't mess around. Fidget HQ don't play. And I also got another Oculus, which I got to play around with this bearing. William Lee, if you know what I'm talking, if you watch my videos, he's some of his best spin times he's gotten out of an Oculus bearing, despite how good the FZ Essentials HC2s are. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. So and I should give a little shout out while I'm doing shout outs. I'll have a sip of beer. This goes out to Mark. Mark's my Canadian brother. Mark won my first giveaway. And actually, Mark, let me know if you still have that. I gave him it was a B2, the Stealth B2 bomber spinner. He won that off. And then, yeah, we've been chatting a lot ever since. So, and we're huge fans of the stuff Fidget HQ is doing, especially the tungsten. But we got very similar tastes. And he knows his stuff. Like, when it comes to metal, a lot of, like, the metal stuff, whether he knows it or he looks it up and learns it, either way, he's provided me with a lot of really good info and taught me a thing or two about the metals. So, Mark's a good guy, so pay attention to him. So, and just for you, Mark, is that a mirror polish? Is that more what we're talking about with a mirror polish? Anyway. That's for him. But let's take a quick peek here, because this is one thing I kind of want to highlight real quick. The arms were made a little narrower on this one, and I think when Raja first did it, he had planned on doing them the same, but it reduces a tremendous amount of weight on here, but he was trying to get a little bit more space between the arms to increase the fidgetability. I don't know, I mean, the extra weight and having the same sort of arms would kind of been cool, but I don't know if that really takes away or reduces, you know, if it's really that much having that extra space between the arms, because once you get in here, it gets narrower and it works as like a really good nook. So, but before we start talking about the fidgetability of this, let me bring it in close and then tell you a little story. Have a sip of beer. I don't want to get into all the details because I want to, you know, it's Raj's business, but he'll take care of you no matter what. The customer service from Fidget HQ is off the chain. So the work that him and Lisa do is pretty amazing, pretty phenomenal. I've had a few people in the past PM me and say things about issues they had with Fidget HQ or something messed up with an order. And not that much, but people, you know, want to reach out to me and talk to me. And I talk with a lot of people out in the community. And every time that's happened, I've been like, well, why are you telling me? Reach out to them. I bet they'll take care of you. And I don't set any expectations. I don't reach out to them ahead of time. I don't tell them to be like, give them my name and tell them I said to take care of you. No, nothing like that. And every time they've come back saying, oh yeah, they took care of me, they hooked me up, they helped me out. So the same sort of thing. You know, I've had all my orders with them except for one have been flawless. I had one little issue with one, and it's nothing I would even really hold against them. But I said, well, let me reach out before I make a big deal or I say anything about it. And you know what they did? They took care of me in the most amazing way. So I don't want to get into the specifics because that's their business, and I don't want anything to make it look like, I don't want to give anybody cause for concern about what the specific issues were or anything like that. I just want you to know that if you have any issues with anything you get from them, just reach out to them. Don't be that guy that goes on the internet and posts like, look how terrible this is, and then, you know, he takes care of you because he saw that post because they're, you know, they're involved in the community. So anywho, let's start talking about this guy. First things 11 minutes in, I should not say first things first. But let's talk spin time just for a second, because this is a big old heavy tungsten spinner. Now, for me, the first thing I do with just about any tungsten spinner like this, especially the ones, pretty much all I've been getting lately is Fidget HQ. But the first thing I do is I take the bearing out of it and I put in a Fidget FC Essentials HC2. There is nothing wrong with the bearings that come from Fidget HQ. The high velocity bearings they got here, they're half shielded. They've got the black balls in here. Excellent spin times, excellent character, great bearings. Nothing wrong with them. I've just gotten so used to the feel and the speed of the HC2s, and they're just my favorite bearing. I just throw them in everything. They're my go-to bearing, and because of that, I also get a little more familiar with the feel. I'm used to the extra looseness that these bearings have. I actually really enjoy that. It makes things feel faster, and I'm more used to that character, so I can also give kind of a more even base, honest review of the spinner, knowing that they all have a similar bearing. It's like part of the spinner isn't influenced by having a different bearing for me, right? So this is the bearings I like, I throw them in there. So I threw that bearing in here. And I got about 13 minutes on a table spin and about 13 minutes on a vertical spin. It was somewhere around 13 and a half, 1320, 1330 on a bearing that I'd used and tried breaking in and cleaning a little bit. I'd spun it a lot. It started to get a little grindy, cleaned it out. Got about 14 and a half on a table spin, but still only getting around 13 and a half on a vertical spin, which is really interesting. Most tungsten for me has gotten about 8 minutes on a table spin. So a lot of what, kind of I was led to believe or I experienced was the extra weight, the extra mass pulling down, put extra friction on the bearing and slowed the spinner down. But did not seem to be the case with this one, and this one is the heaviest, so I don't know how much truth there is to that and how much else is going on with it. That said, I've seen some of the folks, most notably I think William Lee over on Spin Time, and he's in other places, but broke the 30 minutes. Good on you, bud. He broke the 30-minute barrier finally. I think it was with his, I think he says it's a Triton V2, but it looks like a Triton V1. But either way, I think it was with it might have been his Oculus bearing, but it was in like the vacuum container. But it was a hand pull, so it wasn't even like an air compressor pull. It was just a really good hand pull setup. But he's getting, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 17 minutes on a table spin, and I just can't quite get there for me. But again, these are still like excellent spin times, so especially with the extra mass. So now you see me spinning this nonstop here because it is super fidgetable. I don't know what it is about the way Fidget HQ does their. Let me take. I did take these buttons off. Let me make sure the spacer doesn't come off here. You can see it's got the same recessed. I meant to show that when I took it off before, but bumped the camera. Put that back on. But I don't know what it is about how they make their tungsten so fidgetable. So it's got excellent chamfers all the way around. You can see the stepping, because again, it's the way it's machined. It's tungsten. It does it kind of in little layers. It's got this really nice line pattern, which you also see on the Zen Duo Evo. And now in the Evo, it just goes side to side, left to right. I like how this one kind of goes across the spinner. So on the one arm where it's not at an angle, right? If you look at this spinner, right, it's at an angle. Or on this arm, and this arm, it's at a bit of an angle. But on the arm, it's kind of going straight. It's going a perpendicular across as opposed to kind of parallel with the arm out this way. And it's the same on both sides, which my OCD appreciates that. I don't know, it's kind of a neat finish, and I appreciate it going this way across the arms, where this one kind of goes parallel with the arms. Just a little extra something. I don't know if they did that intentionally to have them different, but it's just one little thing that I liked. It also does look, someone I think mentioned like, oh, look at this, I've got Mokutai or Damascus tungsten because of the way it's kind of almost looks like it's pressed together here. Tungsten is, and this is courtesy of Mark, is sintered. It has, I believe, the highest melting points of any metal. You can't even forge it when it's like white hot. It's just like it's too brittle and comes apart. So tungsten is usually alloyed with a little bit of something and put under tremendous pressure at high heats, as opposed to kind of being forged. It's just kind of, think of a bunch of little bits smashed together. You know, you take all your crumbs from your muffins in the morning and smash them into one more bite, right? Maybe add a little bit of milk to make it stick together, right? Something like that. So that's kind of the idea that's going on here. But it just throws oh so well. So it's, you know, despite its extra weight, I can really get in there and I can interrupt the spins. I can get good pulls. I can get good preloaded flicks. What he did with the arms does make excellent little notches for flicking. So I can really flick it out there. I can really pull it in. I can pull on the top here. Get my finger in between, push it out, pull, pull, push, pull, push, pull, pull. And it just feels fantastic. This is a spinner that it's got to be it's absolutely without question one of my favorite tries. I'm trying to debate, well, since we got it right here, let me just give it a spin. Nah, that's still nicer. There's something about this that I just, when I feel it, I know it. So, but this is a really, really tremendous spinner. So if you missed out on it, I think it was about 140. It was, I think, the most expensive tungsten one to date. But just with the extra mass and the extra weight of it, it just adds a little bit, right? It's got to be more to ship. You know, I'm not sure if it really makes that much of an impact with the volume that he's dealing in, but also just the extra size of the piece, right, in try, just impacts that. So. But yeah, and I'm finding, you know, in doing spinner reviews, I've always wanted to kind of do a lot of different fidgeting styles, but as I'm spinning more and more, I'm getting more and more I just preload flick all the time. So this is fantastic for that. These chamfers work. It's almost like snapping your fingers. The edges are really rounded. If you remember me mentioning on this guy, on one of the sides, it was the slightest bit sharp, and I just hit it with a bit of a glass emery board, a nail file, and just took just the slightest bit of the edge off. And it was fine. This one does not have that. All these edges, you can see, watch the light reflect, right? They've got the slightest little secondary chamfer, secondary bevel, whatever you want to call it, that just softens everything up. And it just feels like it goes forever because it will, right? You're going to get, on a spin like this, even one-handed, I'm going to get 10 plus minutes if I just hold my fingers here like this. The tungsten buttons give it so much grip, you don't have to worry about it coming loose. And it just really is a tremendous spinner. So what does Hobby Timmy recommend? 2 thumbs all the way up. Can't recommend this guy enough. Trying to be constructive, trying to think about negatives. I really don't have a negative to say. I can't think of one. I like this finish going on the top. You know, if the closest I could come to a negative is, I think it would have been cool with the extra wider arms, but that's a pretty minor thing to critique on. I don't really have much negative to say. It's just what you've come to expect from Fidget HQ, just hit after hit. Excellent work with the tungsten. Oh, this is one fidgeting style I've actually been enjoying with this guy. I've actually been starting to pick this style up a little bit more. The old, you just pull, hold it with the ring finger, or middle finger, then pull with the ring. Should we get a little awkward fidget in there for you? You guys might be able to hear my son in the background. I'm not sure what he's doing. Anywho. Excellent spinner. So I think we've said all that needs to be said. If you see, Fidget HQ is going to be doing I think in March, they're going to be redoing a drop for this, which is probably my least favorite tungsten offering. So many people seem to really like this, and I think I know why when I talk about my next video, so we'll kind of I'll try to remember to bring this in. And it is fantastic. I do love this spinner. It's a fantastic spinner. Yeah, for me, like, this is just crazy how heavy it is. So talk about finger fatigue, and I think I gotta be honest, with as much as I've been spinning the Fidget HQ tungsten since it's come out, I feel like my hands and the muscles in my fingers are so much stronger for this type of fidgeting, because I remember fidgeting this guy and started to get a little bit of hand fatigue after a really long trip. But I'll have this guy and I'll spin it for 20-30 minutes and not feel any fatigue in my hands. Just Fidget HQ, just making you stronger. gonna be, thanks for making, oh yeah, at Christina Aguilera. I can't remember all the lyrics, but I'm like, what is the song that's popping into my head when I say stronger? So, all right, internet, we're gonna leave it at that. Fidget HQ, go get yourself some. Keep an eye out for their tungsten drops. They should have a, I can't remember the name of the next one. They did the collaboration with Fidget HQ and Spinetic for like this quad style, the Proton, I want to say, maybe. I think that's what it might be called. But that looks amazing as well. So we're looking forward to that over here. That should be shipping probably in the next couple weeks. It looks like the factory was just about done manufacturing it the last we saw. So, all right. Until next time, which for me, I'm just going to hit pause and then I'm just going to start recording again. No stopping and go from there. But kisses, internet.